Okay, the topic is Urim V'Tumim. This week's Pasha discusses the clothing of the Kohanim. One of the details that's recorded about the clothing of the Kohanim was that the high priest wore 8 garments. The 4 garments that the conventional Kohen wore, right? He wore the pants, and the tunic, and the gatel, which was 32 amos long and ran around him, and a hat. And in addition, he had 4 what's called big of gold, garments of gold. He had a second tunic, a second shirt, me'il, titz, head band, a head plate, and then he had, of course, the breastplate and the ephod, the apron which he wore on his back. He didn't wear the apron on the front, as most people do. He wore it behind him. And the ephod and the choshen, the apron and the breastplate, were tied together into a single unit, so they wouldn't budge. They were chained on top and tied tightly on the bottom. There's a special law that they're not allowed to budge. And as you'll see, and it's discussed in Sfarim, they're frequently described as a unit. Sometimes the ephod and choshen are called ephod. Sometimes the ephod and choshen are called choshen, and it's a reference to both together. In these meforshim that we're going to touch on, and then in the sikh at the end, it's conceivable that sometimes one without the other, but they shared properties. The essence of the ephod and the choshen had many, many similarities. And in the breastplate, there was something called Urim V'Tumim. The literal translation of the word Urim means lights, and Tumim means holes, wholenesses with a W. Something that makes whole. And what is this? What is this Urim V'Tumim? And there's so many opinions, and there's so much to discuss. It's mamash anash and Ralbag. So first turn the page. Read the second page, pasuk lamed. V'nasata al chesha hamishpat, you should place L, 2, right? L doesn't necessarily mean in, it could mean 2. The breastplate of judgment, as Urim V'Tumim, this phenomena called the lights and the tumim that makes whole. V'hayu alev Aharon, they should be on the heart of Aharon. Bevoya lifnei Hashem as he approaches before God. V'nasa Aharon, and Aharon should carry es mishpat b'nei Yisrael, the judgment of the Jewish people, alibay on his heart, lifnei Hashem before God, tell it all the time. Now, very important initial commentary. The purpose of carrying the breastplates and the names of the 12 tribes and so forth with the Urim V'Tumim was to carry the mishpat b'nei Yisrael. By the ephod, the apron had 2 stones on his shoulders, like shoulder pads. Each one had 6 names of the shvatim. It says lizikaron, that Aaron carried it to remember, as opposed to here it says as a judgment. And this nuance, he's carrying the names of the shvatim, and carrying the names of the shvatim. One is for memory and one is for judgment, is significant, and it has to do with the Urim V'Tumim. The first thing we're going to read is the Yenis and Ben Ezil. Turn back to the page we had first. That will be page Taf Shin Lamed Tes. I made the arrow. The Sita and B'Cheshen Dina, you should place in the breastplate of judgment. Yas, turn the page again. Uraya, the lights. The Menaharin Mileihon, whose words radiate. Umefarsim Tmira Deveis Yisrael, and reveal those secret things that relate to the Jewish people. V'yas Tumaya, in addition to placing these lights which expose, you should place the Tumaya. What is their function? They're mashlimin be'evadehen. They make perfect and whole in their work. L'kahana Rabbah, to the high priest. That the Tova that he is demanding and searching, Ulfan, teaching, direction, min kadam ad Hashem, from before God behind, with the Urim V'Tumim, to the Urim enlighten, and the Tumim complement, they perfect. The behind, because on the stones of the Choshen Mishpat was chokik, was carved in Meforish and stated explicitly, Shema Rabbah V'Kadisha, the great and holy name of God. The Bay is Barium, with which God created Tlas Me'ov Isarti Alma, the 310 worlds, which are for Tzedek also loving. The Chokik Mefarish Be'evin Shesiya, it's also carved and explicitly stated on the stone called Evin Shesiya, whatever they call it, the stone that the world was based on. The B'chosem More Alma, with which the master of the world sealed. Pum Tahei Maraba, the mouth of the great abyss, means Sheiruya. I think Sheiruya means a flood, but I don't know. It says in Gemara that in the place of the Beis HaMikdash, there's a hole to the abyss, and if the waters would rise, they'd flood the earth, and it's kept sealed by this Evin Shesiya. Any man who mentions this holy name, b'shas anika, a time of pain and oppression, mishtazeh will be helped, utmid and magalin, and secrets will be revealed to him. This breastplate, with the uraya which reveal, to maya which perfect, when the heart of Aaron, bisman me'ale kodam adishem, at the time he went before God, the yitel Aaron yazdin b'nei Yisrael alibi, the Aaron should take the judgment of the Jewish people on his heart, kodam adishem, before God to do it all the time. Very interesting. Now, we'll see Rashi in a moment. This is Urim V'Tumim, it was a miraculous phenomena that the Oyer and Aaron, the Choshen HaMishpat, provided access to secret information. Rashi, same page, right side. As the Urim V'Tumim says, Rashi Uksav Shem HaMafurish. It's a document on which the exclusive name of Hashem was written. Shayanai's name was placed in the folds of the Choshen. And this Urim V'Tumim, this plate of gold, which had the name of God written on it, acted as a battery, so to speak, through which the words would light up, and the Kohen would know messages from the Eibishter, umitamim devarav, and it would make the words whole. And Rashi continues and he says, they had the breastplate in the second temple, because the high priest cannot be missing one of the garments, but that plate with the divine name was missing, and therefore it didn't have this miraculous quality. That plate of gold with the name of God Almighty written upon it, which was in the fold of the Choshen, is the reason why it's called Mishpat. That there was a judgment, there was a clarification, there was a discernment or a discerning of phenomena which was affected by this breastplate because of the name of God which is inside. Now, they're actually saying more or less the same thing as the Urim V'Tumim. He clarifies that it was a physical plate of gold with the name of Hashem written on it. He also seems to distinguish between the word Urim and Tumim. Right? He says Urim made light and Tumim made whole. They're two different things. And the more we learn, the more you'll see this. Now we get to the Even Ezra. And here the Even Ezra goes off the abyss. He goes off the continental shelf. What the Even Ezra says is very similar, really, to what Ralbag says. Ralbag is very elaborate and so forth. And I'll give you the gist of it. I'll give you the long and short of it. Even Ezra disagrees with Rashi completely. There's a bunch of bases for it. Even Ezra holds that there was more than one Urim V'Tumim. It wasn't unique to the Kohen Gadol. There were many other people who had this Urim V'Tumim, who were able to predict the future and so forth. Some of them, he says, didn't have Urim V'Tumim. They had only Tumim. So that was sufficient to be prophetic to an extent, but since they had Tumim and not Urim, so there was a deficiency in their ability to predict the future. He links the Urim to the Choshen and the Tumim to the Ephod. I'll do the Makubalim. You'll see there's a lot of symmetry here. Everybody is saying the same thing in other words. You'll see mamish 10 different opinions, but they're really saying essentially the same thing. Urim is linked to the Choshen, Tumim is linked to the Ephod. Says Even Ezra, Urim V'Tumim were not unique to the Kohen Gadol. It wasn't a name of God, as Rashi says at all, completely rejected. Based on a supposed letter from Rabbi Goen, which Ramban says, I saw Rabbi Goen's letter and he's wrong. Ramban says about Even Ezra's rejection of Rashi, he's wrong. Even Ezra rejects Rashi, and Ramban rejects Even Ezra's rejection. And he holds that Urim V'Tumim was really more a process than a phenomenon. It's very long. The evidence is very long. The Ralbag is almost as long. So I'll tell you the gist of what they both are saying. They both construe the Urim V'Tumim as facilitators, as tools for meditation. The essence of what they both say is, Even Ezra and Ralbag, is that Urim V'Tumim helped Kohen Gadol be a prophet. Rashi holds, the Ezra holds, the Ramban holds that it was a miracle. They hold that there was nothing miraculous with Urim V'Tumim. The Urim V'Tumim were assistants. They aided a Kohen Gadol in becoming a prophet. What's the long and short of it? The long and short of it is this. And Rambam holds, Torah holds, that in order for one to become a prophet, there's a whole series of steps. First of all, you need to be a pretty wholesome person to become a prophet. You need to be wise. Wise doesn't mean scholarly in Torah. Wise means human wise. In addition to knowing much Torah, you have to also know the secrets of the Torah, the humanities of the Torah, the transcendence of the Torah. You need to be humble. You need to be rich. We need to say you don't have any weaknesses, psychological and emotional and temptations and so forth. These are the prerequisites to prophecy. And then you have to certainly live a lifestyle. And the lifestyle has to do with isolation, with solitude, aloneness, and a lot of meditation. What do you meditate? On transcendence. There's reality, there's a lower reality, there's a higher reality. There's the core of reality, that's called Teva Umasha Achri HaTeva. And people who wish to be prophets, first of all, have to be very wholesome human beings, great scholars, very healthy psychologically, very at peace with themselves, not in a compromised way, but in a whole way, in an achieved way. And then they would meditate. They would meditate on what's beyond. The meditation on what beyond was not prophecy, but it was more and more abstract. More abstract. And the abstraction affected the mind. The mind became a mind that's seeking and longing for the unknown, for the beyond. And then maybe she'll give you a prophecy. Like Chokhmah. Chokhmah is a flash. The process of getting that flash is going past yourself. It's the frustration of not knowing. It's the admission that everything I've known till now is wrong. You want to go past yourself so that you can get something from on high. So they view Urim V'Tumim as physical tools. Physical things that have pictures on them, perhaps, that were used to assist in a meditation. And the nature of the meditation was to go higher, to go past. Reality is not building a house. Reality is not earning money. Reality is not organic life. Reality is not even human existence. Reality is not even human intellect. It's angelic intellect and what is beyond. And to use the Urim V'Tumim as a vehicle, that you look at it and it helps you go past the here and now to get closer to a higher there in some place and some other time, so that you were a keli for Nevuah. That's how they describe Urim V'Tumim. Ibn Ezra writes, they took the Urim V'Tumim, they put him inside the breastplate. And when the Kohen needed to be a prophet, he took him out and looked at him.
Could you just step out for 1 second and give us what the relationship was? This is going to come later. The Urim and Thummim to the question.
Well, it's much later.
Okay.
Much later.
But physically, is there any physical?
None. We don't know yet what Urim V'Tumim are. According to Rashi, they're a plate with God's name on it that serve two purposes. One enlightened, one made whole. Both of them were in the breastplate. But for some reason, the Tumim had an association. Remember, I said this at the very beginning. In many contexts, the Chosh and the Ephod are viewed as one unit. They were two garments, but they were bound together inexorably. It was a lav de'eraisa that they should move. Chayv Malkus. They had to be tied so tightly that like as if they were sewn together. They were one garment. And philosophically and certainly mystically, there's a link between the Chosh and the Ephod and between the Urim and the Chosh and Tumim and the Ephod. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Ibn Ezra brings a story from Tanakh, which Rambam also brings a sikh at the back of his pamphlet. You have a sikh from the Rebbe, that there were a bunch of Kohanim who wore aprons, and that we find that people went to ask their counsel, and it's implicit that they had Tumim and not Urim. According to the Ibn Ezra and the Ralbag, that means they had one tool for the meditation of transcendence, but not the second tool for the transcendence. You follow what I'm saying? And both will tell you that Tumim are lower than Urim. In other words, first you meditated on Tumim, and then you could meditate on Urim. First you meditated on something which is not very physically real, but its level of being theoretical is closer to reality. And then you made it something which is even more theoretical, less related to reality, and closer to the transcendence, closer to what they would call acharei hateva, beyond nature, beyond any form altogether. And the idea of Urim V'Tumim was to help you become a Navi. So the Kohen Gadol had to be a Navi, had to have Ruach HaKodesh, and the Urim V'Tumim assisted him. But it has nothing to do with Rashi's concept. That it was like a battery, you put it inside and let it light it up. They had no... The Gemara says what Rashi says. The Gemara says what Rashi says. In the back of this book, the Rebbe has a sikh on the Ramban. The Rambam is not the Ralbag, the Rambam is not the Ezra, but he's not that far away. Where the Rebbe discusses the relationship between the Urim V'Tumim and the Kohen Gadol, and yes Nevu and no Nevu and so forth. But this is their idea. Very interesting, and you and I will both agree we never heard of this before. And we're finished. Yeah? Now, so here's what we'll do. We'll do, mamish, a little bit of Ibn Ezra, and a little bit of Ralbag. I printed 4 pages of Ralbag. A lot. But we'll just touch. So you have to go back to the first page. And you see the Ibn Ezra, it's huge. The first 2/3 of this Ibn Ezra are arguments to support the idea that Urim V'Tumim are not limited to the Chosh. To prove that we have evidence from Tanakh that more than one person carried them. There was a fellow named Yosar, he wasn't a Kohen Gadol, he wore Tumim. He wore an Ephod and Tumim, no Urim. The 85 Kohanim who wore Ephod Bod had Tumim and not Urim. Like I mentioned, there seems to be a uniformity in this, that Urim has a link to Choshen and Tumim has a link to Ephod. A whole bunch of proofs. And he proceeds to discredit Rashi with 1,000 different ways. 2 lines from the bottom. Rabbeinu Shlomo Omar. Rabbeinu Shlomo, that means Rashi says, Urim V'Tumim hayu kisvei she'im ha'maferish. Urim V'Tumim were names of God Almighty. And that's it. That's all he says. Right? Rashi says, Urim enlightened and Tumim made whole. And Ibn Ezra says, V'ilu ra tshuva Rabbeinu Hai, lo Omar kocha. Had Rashi seen Rabbeinu Hai going tshuva, he wouldn't have said so. Now, Rabbeinu Hai Gaon passed away the year Rashi was born. So Rashi should have been able to see his tshuva. Somehow Rashi didn't have access to it, maybe because he lived in a different part of the world. Rabbeinu Hai Gaon lived in Bavel. When he passed away, Bavel ended. Rashi lived in Europe. Ibn Ezra was all over the place, suffering, a miserable life that he had. And he says, the idea of the Ephod V'Choshen is a deep secret. I'll hint it a little bit, left side of the page. Now I want to tell you something. I told you a pshat in Ibn Ezra. I don't see it in Ibn Ezra. I really don't. Ramban sees it in Ibn Ezra. You understand what I'm saying? The Ibn Ezra is so obscure. Ramban says what Ibn Ezra says and explains Ibn Ezra better than Ibn Ezra himself and refutes it. Okay? Maybe a couple of smart alecs will get it. Okay. Now, the 2 chains that connected the Choshen at the top. The Chesha v'Ephod which connected the Choshen at the bottom. This is a mished, it's a road to a central path. What does this mean? I don't have a clue. Okay? I have hunches, but I don't know. That's why there were 6 stones on each shoulder pad of the Kohen Gadol, 1 on one and 6 on the other. And these shoulder pads that had the names of the 12 tribes on 2 stones correspond to the level of thought. Therefore, you had many tribes' names on 1 stone. Al Misvah Bnei Yisrael, on the numbers of Jews, Val Shmeisa Kitil Deisam, and the names that they were born, V'kacha Hashisha Hashnim. The same is true on the other 6. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think this says, although this is very cryptic. He says the Ephod was a place of unity. And it's represented by the notion of machshava. Now recall, I told you a while back that the Ephod is linked to the word zikaron. Remember? Choshen is linked to the word mishpat. The difference between zikaron and mishpat, when you remember something, you're not so concerned with discerning its aspects. You want to just recall the totality of it. The word judgment denotes to cut something up, to dissect, nituach, to chop it up. So he's observing Twice, the names of the 12 tribes appear in the garment of the Kohen Gadol. But in one, each Shevet got its own stone. In the other, they're merged, 6 on one and 6 on the other. So he's essentially saying that the Oif represents a higher level, where we're not chopping things up, and therefore there's greater unity, and you connect it to the notion of thought, if you will, the way Hashem relates to us on a level of thought, where He isn't noticing our details, He's seeing our cohesion, our unity. As opposed to Choshen HaMishpat, where we're chopped up, we're distinguished, we're separated from one another. Like HaMishpat in any Kiti Achilik B'Leiv. When you come down to the Choshen, He doesn't even bother calling it Choshen, He just calls it judgment. It's no longer as it was divided in the heart, it's really divided. In the heart, things are divided and still connected. In the shoulder pads where you have 6 over here and 6 over here, you have the names of each Shevet, but they're not separated. In the Mishpat, they're separated. Like in the over here, they weren't separated. Theoretically, they were separated. Actually, you could see them on 12 separated stones. Okay, skip 2 lines. The breastplate was folded in double. Urim V'Tumim Shmurim Ebenezer's position. Inside the fold, they kept the Urim V'Tumim till they would be needed. Right? We hold, you put them on the breastplate and never took them out. Because they were like a battery which performed a miracle, not Ebenezer. No. They were a mechanism to achieve Nevuah. The Kohen Gadol, besides everything else, was destined to be a Navi and to help the Jewish people with prognostication for future. Some of the Mepharshim say, but the near future as opposed to the distant future. So when he needed it, it was basically with a folder. He took it out, he put it in front of him, he meditated, he transcended, became a prophet. Say it into the sand. Then they would be removed from inside the breastplate, and he would use it for a mechanism of prophecy. The way the names of the Shvatim appear on the stones on his shoulders, there's a certain unity, cohesiveness. As opposed to the stones of the chest plate, the shoulder pads were just to remember, and when you remember everybody as one. But the discerning, the judging, the separating one Jew from the next, and judging each one individually was allowed in Yachosh. Okay? Now, so has he said a single word about what I told you about this business meditation? Devaila Gornisht. Now, Omilas Urim, Begzeras Chamesi to Isiyot. It's the same root of the word Chamesi to Isiyot. Chamesi means I saw in Aramaic. I saw light. I'm looking for light, if you will. V'Tumim Shem Tmimim, they're whole. V'Ha'urim, Loi HaTumim, Zav HaKesef. What does that word Loi mean? I don't have a clue. But the Urim and Tumim were made from gold and silver. V'Ha'Misper Yedua Berayes Gemures. And I think this word means that there's a gematria in Urim V'Tumim which proves clearly that the Urim V'Tumim had upon themselves Meha'elyin V'Hashafel, a higher world and a lower world. You know how cryptic that is? How vague that is? That you could figure out by a mispar, by some kind of a gematria, that the Urim V'Tumim had a higher world and a lower world. And the whole idea was, you went from the Tumim, which was a lower level, to the Turim, which was a higher level. You transcended, and you were Kevi for Nevuah. There were many Kayanim who had aphids, and along with aphids, they had Tumim. They had the belt, and I guess that means the power to do this meditation, to achieve some kind of level of prophecy. There was no Choshen, there was no Urim, but they had Ephod and they had Tumim. You see? You understand? Now, you're wondering how I figured this all out, because the Ramban explains the Rabbeinu Ebenezer very clearly, as does the Ralbag. Shahayu al Cheshan Mishpat Yuchal Hashel Shel Midimyan Ha'efet Levade. A person who was spiritually sensitized, that he would be able to use the combination of Urim and Tumim to become a Navi. On occasion, the Tumim would suffice. The Efed without the Cheshan would suffice. That's it. That's all he says. That's all. Okay? Now, let's jump to the Ralbag. I printed tons of Ralbag. It's right after the Chumash. Last paragraph, page Shinayichas. Right there, right. Urim V'Tumim Ha'imidim Anavuah. Urim V'Tumim. The Ralbag. Urim V'Tumim Ha'imidim Me'idim HaNevuah. What does the word Me'idim mean? They aroused prophecy. They woke up prophecy. You see how he describes it? Not it was a battery for revelation. It was a mechanism. In other words, according to them, in Ezra and Ralbag, the Kohen Gadol had to work a lot harder than we imagine. You know, we thought Urim V'Tumim, he would stand there, people stood behind him, and the voice would come. No, he had to do all this meditation. The Rambam doesn't agree with this. Rambam takes a hold like Rashi about the Urim V'Tumim. If the Kohen was worthy, who could meditate upon them. That's why he said he carried the judgment, meaning to say the possibility of being able to be a prophecy for the Jewish people. The names written on the stones of the breastplate themselves, in other words, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, which written on the stones, were a first cause El Teshetet Machsheves HaKoyin B'Yisrael, that the mind of the Kohen should start wandering into the deepest depths of the Jewish people. In other words, the stones on the outside had names. They were a provocation. They were telling the Kohen, you, move, rise. They were the names of the Yidden. And the Yidden are the lowest levels. But the names of the Yidden encouraged him to go to the next level, which was Tumim. And the images of the Tumim made him rise to the next level still, which is Urim. And from Urim he became Navi. Verstehst? Interessant. You know, on the one hand it's so unholy. On the other hand it's so avoidic, you know. The Kohen Gadol got schwitz in the heart of it. Urim V'Tumim wasn't a party. Urim V'Tumim HaYusiba, Urim V'Tumim were a motivation Lagia Nevuah to reach. Misad his Banyanusei, because what the Urim V'Tumim evoked was a meditation Be'etam Asi Barishena, in the essence of the first cause. In other words, to transcend, as I described it to you before. We has baited, sorry?
So there was no instant answers.
No such thing. Right. We're going to avoid it. The Rebbe has a sikh at the back based on the Rambam, where the Rebbe says there's two inyanim in the Kohen. One was a King, and the other was a Navi. Not every Kohen had both.
So how did they used to go? There was people going to the Kohen?
Yeah. He would isolate himself. He would transcend from the remaining faculties. Asher who, that this separation, this transcendence of his regular faculties is Siva Lagos HaNevuah, is a cause to reach prophecy. Which is prefaced by his mind wandering into the transcendent and into the unknown. Okay? And that's enough. That's enough. And he of course says, Moshe Rabbeinu prepared Urim V'Tumim. Moshe Rabbeinu put it into the Choshen Mishpat because it wasn't a garment, it was something very uncommon. Only Moshe was an expert at it. Moshe Rabbeinu prepared it and he gave it to the Kohen Gadol. Top of page 9 test. Ulefi shezeh kule haya l'hayir ha'nevuah, since it was all about arousing prophecy, l'hayu nishalam v'urim v'tumim l'kayin, since it was about prophecy, they wouldn't ask Urim V'Tumim el l'kayin, only to a priest, she'ruach ha'kedesh she'er alav, from which ruach ha'kedesh rested. You see? Since the first step of his meditation towards the transcendent was by meditating about Klal Yisrael as a whole, they only asked the Kohen encompassing basic general issues. Right? Now I would say nothing. Okay, fine. Now you say I made an aleph, and then I made a beis, and the next page I made a gimel. This aleph, beis, and gimel are three different interpretations of Urim V'Tumim. In the first one, Urim means the element of fire, and Tumim means the beginning of the cohesion of fire, wind, water, and earth into final creations. In the second interpretation, Urim means theoretical heat, and Tumim means the development of forms. And I would propose that now forms means the four elements, as opposed to just the element of fire. And the third interpretation is Urim goes on the stars, and Tumim goes on the heavenly bodies that are less than the stars. Okay? Again, I'm not reading them to you. I'm telling you what it says. The first level of Urim V'Tumim is the lowest shot. The second level of V'Tumim, in other words, the first level of Urim V'Tumim, Urim is, you say the Eish, and Tumim is all four elements together. In the second interpretation, Urim is Eish, and Tumim, I think, is Ruach Mayim and Afon. And in the third one, it's the heavenly body with the V'chalo elements, according to the Chaykim. The stars and what's less than the stars. The point is, it was a meditative process. And you first meditated Tumim, then you meditated Urim, because Urim was beyond it, and it was closer to the prophecy itself. You follow? It's consistent a little bit with last week's discussion about the two Kruvim. Remember we discussed Kruvim? And he brings a lot of fancy, nice words. Enough. Okay? Yes? Okay, now, let's go back to the Ramban for a little bit. Just have to flip over your packet. You don't have to change pages. Because of the Ramban writes. Sorry. You see where I made the arrow? Lamed. Sava Rabbi Avraham. You see I sort of erased it a little bit?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Saba Rabbi Avraham, V'Yischakem b'Inyan Urim V'Tumim. He gets all carried away with the Urim V'Tumim. Skip one line, okay? The Herech b'Inyanim, and he elaborates, Ki Choshev Shehem Al Tzures. They're on forms, Sheyasu Bala Gechavim, similar to what people who worship stars did, Ladas Machshavas HaShchayot, to know the thought of the one who's requesting it. The Rebbe didn't say anything of the sort. Ramban is reading into the Ezra the concept of Gestalt, of form. But Ramban said nonsense. Now, yes, Ezra does say, I interpret the Ezra for you, remember? Yes? The interpretation that I gave based on this, when I read the Ralbag, I said, that's what Ezra means. Ezra is cryptic. It's Kuli Remes. But there's a fundamental difference when the Ezra says when the Ramban reads it. The Ramban reads it as though he's talking to the stars. Ezra reads it as the stars are a stepping stone, are a catalyst to beyond. You understand? The Ramban has no tolerance for this from form to formless. There's a God and that's it. Don't give me myself with angels. Once you have Sfiras, who needs angels? But that's how the Ezra says it. When you read the Ezra and the Ralbag especially, you realize as much as this is controversial, it's not consistent with Halacha, not consistent with Ramban, not consistent with Rashi, but you hear the Avodas Hashem in it. You hear Achdus in what they're saying. And then he brings Rashi, and he goes into a whole arichas. He basically agrees with Rashi in the story. Okay? Sure. Now, there's Rabbeinu Bechaya who repeats the Ramban and explains it nicely. We don't have time for the Rabbeinu Bechaya. There's a Rekanti who quotes the Ramban verbatim. So we're not doing that. But I want to show you one line of the Rekanti. And I find this fascinating. Before you turn your pages, please, there's a Balaturim. There's a Balaturim. There's no page number here. Just the page where we just read the Ramban, you see a Balaturim? The page right before the Ralbag. Esa Urim V'Tumim B'Gematria Shem Ben Shivim V'Shtayim. Esa Urim V'Esa Tumim is the numerical equivalency of Shem Ben Shivim V'Shtayim, the name Ab. Okay? You'll see later on in Arizal that Tumim are Ab. Urim are Mab. But he says both together, Esa Urim, Esa Tumim V'Shem Ab. Okay? Now, go to the country. Okay? Now, I'm doing this just to show you the evolution of Torah. Gematria? Together, Esa Urim. The Esa Tumim is Gematria Shem Ben Shivim V'Shtayim. It's a high number. It's well over 1,000. Okay? Go to the Rekanti. Tufay Aleph.
1 second. Gematria Shem Ben Shivim V'Shtayim.
Ab, Ayin Beis. Shivim. All together. Shem Ben Shivim V'Shtayim. All four words. Not Ban, Ben Shivim V'Shtayim. That has 27 children.
Shem Ben Shivim
V'Shtayim. Right. That's how it's discussed in the Rishon. Now go to the Rekanti. Here we are. You see where I made my left side of the page, where I wrote Rekeach, right? Who's Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Rekeach. From the Mekubalim, from Chachmei, from the Chassidi Ashkenaz. Yes? Esa Urim Esa Tum B'Gematria Shem Ben Shivim V'Shtayim. Here's my proposal. The Balaturim never saw Nish the Rekeach, Nish the Rekanti, Nish the Rekeach. And he couldn't to them allein. You understand? It's just one of those things.
Where's it? Wait, I'm sorry. Where's it?
Where I made the word Rekech, I wrote the word Rekech on the margin. Right there, yeah. Same exact words.
Ani Mitzas.
B'Shem Harav Eliezer. Eliezer's the Rekech. As for Urim V'Tumim, Gematria Shem and Shem Mushtayim. Very interesting. But they say that Urim and Tumim together are one Shem, Ab. Correct? Right? Have now the rest of the passages in Arizal, a Tzemach Tzedek, from Sefer Al-Likutim. I allowed myself to be cheap this time. And Al-Likut Sichs. Al-Likut Sichs, I'm not going to learn it all. It's a Ramban Sikh. It's very, very interesting. It doesn't delve into Urim V'Tumim. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do right now. Instead of reading, I'm going to talk. I'm going to tell you a gedank. I'll tell you a thought. After I discuss the idea, Arizal is saying more or less the same thing as the Tzemach Tzedek. You have to believe that Tzemach Tzedek is adding something, because Chassidus is not just repeating Kabbalah. But I'm not sure what he's adding. Okay? I'm going to give you a thought, and I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this. And I'm going to begin with a totally unrelated idea. I just showed you in the Balaturim and the Rekanti that Esa Urim V'Tumim equals Shem Ben Shem Mushtayim. It's one name, Ab. The Arizal says that Urim V'Tumim are Mab and Ab. You see? Page Kuf Peches at the bottom. I made the arrow. Shem Mab and Shem Ab. Urim are Shem Mab and Tumim are Shem Ab. Hayu Shem at the bottom of the first column. Yeah? There's a whole bunch of Kabbalah here. Leah, Rochel, Shachas V'Zogim. On the bottom of the page he says Mab and Ab and so forth. He brings the same thing that Ezra and that Ralbag bring about other people wearing ephraim as well. This is Sefer Al-Likutim. I looked at Likutei Torah. It's Bekitzer. This is a Likut from a lot of places. It looks like it's from the Chavedim also. It's not just from the Chaim Vital. But I'm going to start with a totally different issue. Okay? In other words, forget the text for a moment. Forget it. And you'll see, amongst other things, what the Ezra says about the Ephraim being Machshava and the Choshen being Mishpat, how you see a convergence between Kabbalah and Even Ezra. I'm telling you, Even Ezra was a big Mokobel. He was no Chayker. He was hiding. I mean, we learn Chassidus. And sometimes they come across Kabbalistic ideas and we say next, don't bother me. Sometimes you'll find a Maimon that actually explains these Kabbalistic ideas. One of the issues, which is discussed at length in the Ayin Beis, it's not discussed so much in other Sfarim, that most people don't say, next to who, it's Kabbalistic, it's gibberish, it's just, you have to have, a map, names and places, you have Kabbalistic language. Is that there are three concepts discussed regarding Ak, Adam Kadmon, the first world. They are Einayim of Ak, the eyes of Ak, Achap, Aleph Ches Pei, Oizen Chotem Peh, ear, nose, and throat. That's it. Yeah, Achap, Oizen, Chotem Peh. That's where the source of it comes. Everything is there. And Metzach, the forehead. Now, Einayim of Ak is another situation. The eyes, the eyes reveal the essence. The eyes are a window into the soul. To be sure, there's a downside to the eyes, but they're out of the ballpark. They're in a different category. But the Metzach and the Achap, what's the difference between the ear, the nose, and the mouth and the forehead? The obvious difference is that these are orifices, these are openings. And every opening is for Knisa v'Yitziyah, in and out. So the concept is that Achap of Ak reveal light. The nose of Ak, the mouth of Ak, the ears of Ak reveal godliness, and reveal it in a way that the world below actually receives something that they can interpret, that they can process and interpret. What is the forehead? Covers. Covers. Doesn't reveal anything. But there's a flip side to it. And the flip side to it is Chochmas Adam Torah Ponav. The essence of a person is on his face. On one side, it's a no-brainer to say that the ears, forget the eyes. The eyes are in a different category. The ears, the nose, and the mouth reveal. The Netzach hides. On the other hand, there's a certain light on the Netzach. It's called in Kabbalah Maha Chadoshim. It's not the regular Mah, it's called the new Maha. That's Beikeah. It has to burst through the skull, and it's rooted in Ab. It's the lowest name, because it has to come through the skull, Maha Chadoshim, but it's rooted in Ab. There's an argument that says that on the forehead you have the essence of the person. The mystical ears, nose, and mouth reveal lights, processable lights. The forehead reveals nothing and reveals an essence, an unprocessable, something you cannot translate. It's just the essence. You got it or you don't. Achap and Netzach come into Hishtalshalos. So it says that the distinction between Toyu and Tikkun is that there's no Netzach in Toyu. There's plenty of Achap in Toyu. There's more Achap in Toyu than in Tikkun. In terms of processable lights which are revealed and translated, Toyu is higher than Tikkun. But Netzach, the forehead, which reveals nothing, but represents the humility, essence bittul, doesn't exist in Toyu, only in Tikkun. And that's why Tikkun is the real place of Kedusha. And Toyu, with all of its loudness and its demonstrativeness and its expressiveness, becomes Klippa because it doesn't have essence. So how do we view the relationship between Netzach and Achap? Which is higher, which is lower? In terms of Giluim, in terms of conscious experience, Achap is an idea. You can learn it, you can understand it, you can talk about it, you can feel it, you can sense it. Netzach is nothing. What's there to explain? It's simple. On the other hand, there's the truth of the Eibishter there. You understand? You get it? Yeah? Yeah? Achap and Netzach are Urim V'Tumim. And it's consistent with Rashi. It's consistent brilliantly with the Ezra. You see Mamish Achdus and Torah here, unbelievably. Lezikarin, Mishpat. Machshava, Mishpat. Everything fits. The Choshen and Mishpat were Urim, lights. Achap, lights. Revealed specific aspects. The other word for the Choshen and Mishpat is Mishpat. Dissect, break up, analyze, judge, process, internalize. But there's an element of tzimtzum in that entire process. The ephod is one on the back. The back, oiref, has no distinguishing characteristics. The choshen is one on the front. Which is better, the front or the back? Of course the front is better than the back. But every front has a back that came before it. You know the muscle from the Schwindeltreppe. You have a spiral staircase. When you're halfway up to the next flight, your back is to the door. So the back of the way up to the higher story is higher than the front of the story below. Right? Why? Because there's an advantage to know distinction. There's an advantage to know discernible details. Netzach, Etzem, is in the back. That's why the ephod is worn on the back. Because the ephod represents a place of no distinction. But the no distinction of the ephod is called Tumim. Wholeness, simplicity, no detail. And there is something atzmiistic about this back. Dafke with the acher, oiref, where there's no detail. But there's essence in no detail. There's essence in Netzach. Now I'm not saying that Netzach and Achap are Choshen and ephod. It doesn't say that. I'm saying that there are mashal for Choshen and ephod. You understand? So, the Ezra of all people, and Mamish is saying, in the Kabbalah, he said what the Kisra Arizal says. That the ephod, and if you read those words of the Ebenezer, he seems like he's jumping around. He starts subject. He says the ephod had two stones. Everything was unified. It goes on machshava, zikaron. It's higher than distinction. The choshen is mishpat. It's discerning, it's dissecting, it's breaking apart. Urim V'Tumim. So Urim is lower than Tumim according to Kabbalah. Not higher than Urim V'Tumim. Urim is lower. And Kabbalistically it's Mab and Ab. Mab is the shame of Gevurah. And in this case it's the words of Chochmah. To discern, to judge, to separate. And Mab is shame of Gevurah. Yeah, Ana B'Cheach, Dul Timicha, shame Mab is Gevurah. It's the shame of Aliyah. You know why it's the shame of Gevurah? Because it's 7 times 6, not 7 times 7. You're missing Malchus. 7 times 7, 49 is Malchus is the Gilui. 42 is 7 times 6. Abag Yitatz. Ana B'chayach has 42 words. It's a shame of Gevurah. So this is what Arizal is.
The equation is Urim.
That's right. And the Ephod is Tumim. And in terms of Giluyim, Ephod is the back. Tumim is simple. It's lower than the Chesh. But there's Etzem in Ephod. There's Etzem in Tumim. Not in Urim, not in the Chesh. This is unbelievable. It's so gorgeous. What's so beautiful about it is that the Arizal says it's Masim with the Rashi. It's Masim with the Yinks from Ezra. It's Masim with Even Ezra. Was liegt an Even Ezra? Was liegt today in the Kabbalah? 12 stones that shows on division.
That's Matav.
Achap. It's al derech achap. Distinguished lights, processable lights, lights you're going to put in vessels, attach words to them. Yeah. And you connect it to Leah and Rachel also. Leah and Rachel. That's what? That the Ephod is Leah, and that the Cheshem is Rachel. Rachel is lower than Leah. Rachel is lower than Leah. But Leah is a level which is, in other words, it's... The Ephod is Leah. And the Cheshem is Rachel.
Rachel is
lower than Leah. And the idea is that Rachel represents separation, distinction, and Leah, he calls it Amadis Kasi, Behalpa. And you know, with this background, you could read most of this Kisvei. You shouldn't have much trouble with it. The bottom of Kupei Zayin, Kupei Ches, you can read the top. Where I made the arrow at the bottom, you should have no trouble. And the Tzemach Tzedek says the same thing. Tzemach Tzedek in Pashtus says the same thing. I print the Sefer Al-Kutam. The next page. And I was generous enough to underline Urim and underline Tumim and to make a line in the text where he finishes his discussion on Urim and begins his discussion on Tumim. You know what he says, Gavaldik over here? Tzemach Tzedek has a whole new Reichkeit. Basically what he says is Urim is Giluyim and Tumim is Atzmos. And he connects it to Shaul and David. He says Shaul was a king, but his kingship could have been overturned. The fact that he was a Melech could have been changed. David the Melech, Shaul was a king. Shaul is the Kenemanig of Urim. And there was a possibility that his kingship would be overturned. Because in Ishtal says there could be Shinuim. David the Melech is lower than Shaul. Yeah. But David the Melech is Malchus. The Shadish of Malchus is enough. This is Tumim. And he explains that David comes from Shaul. You have to come from Giluyim to Atzmos. From Urim to Tumim. But once you add Tumim to Urim, it can never change. He says on the next shikele, Tumecho v'urechol ish chasidecha. Chasidecha is Urim. It's Giluyim. Tumecha, he says, is the Madrega of Tshuva. The transcendence of Urim. It's a very geschmack. It's a very geschmack. Hafachba, the kulaba. Okay.